Hello, I'm Bob Guerra.
And I'm Brittany Hodak.
Welcome to episode 10 of This Week in Country Music. Coming up today, we've got a conversation with Maren Morris. 6 songs you need to hear, all the biggest news from Music City, and finally, an interview with the late, great Country Music Hall of Famer, Roy Clark.
Our community really lost a good one in Roy.
Oh, Brittany, they did indeed. I saw him in concert in his heyday, and I'm telling you, he was an incredible stage performer, put on a great show, great musician, great comedian, and great singer.
Oh, I wish I could have seen him live. I loved watching Hee Haw with my grandparents back in the day at their house.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the show today, not just because of the Roy throwback, but because of a great Maren Morris interview that I got a chance to do. We covered a lot of ground, including her upcoming sophomore album, her thoughts on why country radio isn't playing more female artists, and some of her dream collaborations. But first, let's jump right in with this week's 6 picks. Now, Bob, I've been lobbying you for a while now to let me include Christmas songs.
Yeah. You wanted them in the Big 6 constantly. I think it was like before Halloween.
All right. Maybe it was that long ago.
You know, I bet the lights are already up in your house, aren't they?
Oh, of course they are. After it snowed last week, all bets were off. I immediately put them up. Lights, projectors, inflatables. It's a full-on Griswold spectacle.
I think your neighbors think you're nuts.
I think they're jealous.
Well, now we're officially past Thanksgiving, so I guess I can't really say no to Christmas songs in the 6 anymore.
I mean, you could, but then everybody would probably call you a Grinch, so...
Yeah, they probably would. Okay, I'll tell you what. You can have 2 Christmas songs today. You got a deal?
I'll take it. All right, you know what? I'm going to play a Christmas song first.
Okay, let's kick it off that way.
All right, well, let's start with the woman of the hour, Miss Maren Morris. She has a new Christmas song this season that's so much fun. It's with the band Pentatonix. So a little bit later, you'll hear her talk about how she chose this song and give us a little bit of background. But for now, let's just roll right into it. Maren Morris and Pentatonix with When You Believe.
There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe. Somehow you
I got a sneak peek of your talk with Maren, and she mentioned a couple of new Nashville artists that she's really loving, including Kassi Ashton, whose new single has quite a memorable title.
The second I heard Natalie Hemby sing Taxidermy, I had to have the song. Luckily, she called right after she wrote it. She's like, I wrote a song for you today. It's called Taxidermy. I was kind of thrown off, as anyone would be, at the title Taxidermy, but I realized what title was going to stick out better than that on a list. It was also the perfect second layer for me because it embodies the 2 worlds I grew up in perfectly, and they exist in this kind of harmony that I've myself have tried to keep them in my entire life, growing up, and now I want to be just as much one as I am the other.
And now here's Kassi Ashton with Taxidermy.
You'll be my taxidermy, taxidermy. I keep you hanging on a bedroom wall. And if I ever move to Albuquerque, I'm gonna strap you to my Chevy Impala. Don't gotta say a word, baby, I don't mind. I'll keep you dusted off, keep you looking alive. You'll be my taxidermy, taxidermy. If you ever hurt me again.
Next up, it's Dylan Scott. He's had a great year with the song Hooked, and this new song sounds to me like it's a smash hit in the making. And it's going to lend its name to Dylan's tour next year, which kicks off January 17th in my old stomping grounds of New York City. Here's his new one, Nothing to Do Town.
We got a little something we can go on ice. Find us somewhere that we can drink it while the moon's up high. With your girl and your boys by a fire, making noise in a field on a Friday night. We got some George Strait songs that we turn up loud, living it up till the sun comes back around. Who said there's nothing to do? Who said there's nothing to do? Who said there's nothing to do? And there's nothing to do, town.
Up next is a new artist on Capitol Nashville Records who I heard yesterday that you go way back with. Is that right?
Oh, you must be talking about my buddy Adam Hambrick.
Indeed.
Yeah, we went to college together. Yeah, we went to the University of Central Arkansas back in the day. Go Bears.
Here's Rockin' All Night Long.
Bloodshot eyes, watch the sunrise. Sleep when you die, plays and laugh. It's a full heart, falling hard. Singing songs till you're in the dark. And drinking up every moment till it's gone. I'm just rocking all night long.
Next up, we've got another talented female voice recommended by Maren, which is perfect. It's from Raelynn, and it's called Tailgate. And, I think the timing is just right, considering tomorrow is the biggest college football game of the year.
So what exactly are you talking about? You're talking about Auburn and Alabama? Or are you talking about Ohio State and Michigan? There's a lot of big games tomorrow.
The game.
Like the game? What is the game?
Michigan, Ohio State. That's what they call it. They call it the game.
Ah, like the Ohio State, right?
Something like that, although we're pulling for the Wolverines. All right, well, here's Raelynn with Tailgate.
But if that tailgate ever tells, I'll be the small talk of the town. I'm sure I catch all kinds of hell for every time we laid it down. In the back of that race red F-150, we get to kissing, we get to slipping on clothes, and nobody knows, and only will. If that tailgate ever tells, tell on me, tell on me. If that tailgate ever tells, tell on me.
Okay, by my count, we've got one spot left, which means another Christmas song. What you got?
Well, this is maybe my favorite original Christmas song that I've heard so far this year. We always get a lot of covers around this time of year, but this one is by another Arkansas boy, as a matter of fact, named Lance Carpenter. And you may recognize Lance's name. He had a duet with Crystal Keith called Anyone Else that a lot of people loved. And he also was one of the songwriters on the breakthrough Kelsey Ballerini hit, Love Me Like You Mean It.
Ooh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so here's Lance Carpenter. He put out a Christmas song EP, and it's named after this original song, Christmas White.
Watching my feet sink in the snow, even daddy acting like a child. How long till that first flake falls? How long till we can't see the ground at all? God, I've only got one wish tonight. Please make my Christmas white.
You know what? That's really beautiful. It's a really great song. I got to admit, I feel it. There's a lot more Christmas spirit now going through my blood veins.
Right? That's what I've been telling you. Christmas music is magical. It's way too good just to be in rotation for 4 or 5 weeks a year.
You know, there are some radio stations out there that are playing full-blown Christmas 24 hours a day already.
I mean, I believe it. I don't blame them. It's what the people want to hear. You got to give the people what they want.
It's up to you. You'd find a station, put it on one of the satellite channels, and just let it roll year round.
I've been playing Christmas music since before Halloween, and I pretend it's for my son. Like, I ask Alexa to play it, and I pretend like it's because I'm telling him, like, oh, this is so-and-so. But no, I just love Christmas music. All right. Well, you can hear those 6 songs in their entirety by searching for the This Week in Country Music playlist, wherever your favorite place is to stream.
Okay, maybe next week I'll let you pick 3 Christmas songs. We'll see. But for now, let's roll into that Maren Morris interview.
Maren, thanks so much for coming by today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you teased on Instagram a few months back that you were playing the new record for your label. Does that mean it's totally done?
It is. I was just playing them a few of the songs to get them, excited and let them know that we are almost done. But actually, right before the CMAs, like a day or two before the CMA Awards, I finished the whole thing, like mixes and all.
So can you give us any hints about what fans can expect?
It's I'm going to have some new music out in the new year, so I can share that. So keep your eyes on January. It's a more extended record. Like there's more songs on it than the last one. There's more love songs on it than the last one. I've got to do on 2 of the songs some collaborations with artists I'm a big fan of. And I'm very proud of it.
Great. Well, with the success that you've had this year across multiple formats, does that sort of inform your your style as you're going to the studio? Are you thinking about trying to make something that's going to work across many different formats?
No, I mean, I don't really think about if it's going to be crossover or not. I just think about, does this sound good to me? Like, would I put my name on this? That's how I made my first record too. And literally, like, there were no eyes on it at that time because I was a new artist. So I just made sure I put out something I was really proud of and didn't have any other, again, I'm a perfectionist. I didn't want to have any other like notes on it. I wanted it to be perfect. And so this time there are more eyes on your second album, obviously, because now you've had an album cycle and people know you, so they're familiar with your voice and your face. But this time I can say, like, this is one of the proudest I've been on a record, just because I have lived a little bit more, and I'm married, and I've checked off some major boxes in my life before this record was done, so it reflects all of that.
That's great. Well, speaking of checking off boxes and collaborations, you've had some pretty epic stage performances in the past couple of months. You got to play with Taylor Swift in your hometown, which was really exciting. Mm-hmm. Brandi Carlile, who I know is a hero of yours, mm-hmm. you got to join. And then that epic CMA performance that you had just a week or so back. So are there any collaborations that you're hoping to add to that list in 2019, or any kind of bucket list things that as you look toward the new year?
Man, well, what you just listed is like pretty hard to beat. I didn't think I'd get to do things like that, just at the end of an album cycle. I wasn't really like promoting a single at the CMAs this year. So for me to like be in this performance with this, best vocalist of all time, like Mavis Staples and Chris Stapleton, I just felt like I got to bring all my soul out. And then Taylor Swift is like the biggest artist of all time. So I guess like for 2019, it'd be cool to perform. I'm just setting my sights super high. Like Beyonce would be cool. I love like Shania Twain. That would be awesome. I saw that like Eric Church recently got to sing with Bruce Springsteen, and I was so like jealous because I love both Eric and Springsteen. So yeah, Bruce, that'd be a big one for me.
All right, great. Well, hopefully we'll see some of that in the new year.
Yeah, we'll see.
So you've been an amazing advocate for more women on country radio. I loved your quote at the CMT Next Awards when you got your trophy, and you said eventually country radio is going to get its shit together and play everyone, which I thought was a brilliant quote. What was kind of the reaction to that? I know it got picked up as sort of a pull quote in a lot of headlines. Did you get any kind of pushback for that, or?
I don't know. We'll see if Rich goes number one if I fucked it up. No, I think like even my friends who are program directors and DJs, like all around the country, would agree with me. I think that they've been a supporter of mine, and they love these women artists. It's just about like getting everyone on the same page to play us all and give us all an equal fair shot that they give new male artists. So, if I do get any pushback on that, I feel like it's kind of counterproductive, just because I think everyone can agree that the scale is definitely uneven. I mean, I don't think there's a person alive that would say that looks okay. So I'm not like apologetic for what I said. I am not trying to sound unappreciative that my song is doing really well at country radio, but I am literally like the only, solo female act that's represented there right now. So yeah, I want my friends to get played.
Well, and I know you said that you weren't really thinking about formats as you were recording the sophomore album, but if you look at even somebody like Miranda, who's been a superstar for a decade, who's virtually disappeared from the format in the past year, or, somebody like Kassi, who just got the Album of the Year award, which, I loved what you said to her on Instagram about it being a brilliant album, because it is. But when you see artists of that caliber not being represented, does it kind of scare you as you're going to the studio? Because that's got to kind of be playing in your mind of, is there a song on here that's going to work for radio?
Yeah, I think if you want to be played on country radio, there is a sort of paradigm of a type of song. Even though sometimes it seems like there are songs that go number one that defy all logic and the entire playbook. I mean, there are songs like, here's a recent example, or like in the last few years, was Cam's song "Burning House." Like that's a ballad. She's a newer artist, and you know, it was resonating. So it didn't seem like it should be a number one because people kept saying like people don't want to hear female artists sounding sad on the radio. Well, she proved them wrong, and you know, but I do think there is a sense inside your head as an artist where you're like, how do I blend? I've always said this, like, how do I blend art and commerce? Because I want to play the game enough, like, to have my song heard, but also I don't want to sacrifice my my soul or my art for the song. Like I want to make sure that it's me and it represents what I'm going through at that time. I want it to sound amazing. But I feel like as someone that listens to the radio, there is a sense I have when I write or produce something that tells me this would work at country radio. And I think that you have to have both. And this has nothing to do with why it isn't played by programmers or stations or why listeners don't want to request it or whatever. This is just about from studio to picking a single. I think about, you know, not all these songs on my record would work at radio, and that's for any album. Like there are singles and then there are like the deep cuts. So you have to like be methodical. It's not always like the arts and craft song on the record is going to be a number one. You have to like think about, you know, catchiness and repetition and what is going to get stuck in people's heads or resonate with a massive audience. Because, you know, I have songs on my last record that are my favorites. Like there's one called Once. And I performed that at the Grammys, and I performed it with Alicia Keys right after I won my first Grammy. And would that song work at radio? Probably not. It's a really dark ballad, but it works for something like the Grammys. So I feel like this is a really long answer of saying, like, I think we all need to be really aware, labels, artists, writers, publishers, of, you know, what's working, what's a single, and what is not a single.
Well, and you've done such a great job of balancing that sort of art and commerce. And obviously streaming has been a huge part of your story, and you had such a massive fan base before you ever went to country radio. So that's, I think, a silver lining, that it's so easy these days for people to discover an artist and then go deep into their catalog, regardless of what's happening at country radio. So I would love for you to give listeners one or two female artists who you love right now that you think people should immediately go check them out.
Yeah, I'd love to. I love what Raelynn is doing. I think that she's got, like, the first song I really felt like someone punched me in the gut because the songwriting was so good on it was her song Love Triangle. And that was one of those songs I thought should have been a number one because It almost had that, like, House That Built Me worldness to it, and there's so many people that related to it, and that is still one of my favorite songs in the last few years that was released. And then her song right now, Tailgate, is super well written and catchy. She's just got like a super husky, like smoky voice that I love. And then there's this new artist who is just like killing it, and she's, you know, only put a few things out, but Kassi Ashton is a badass. And, you know, I think it all comes down also to, like, this goes for guys and girl artists, like, who do I believe when they're saying or singing something to me? And when Kassi sings and when she performs, I believe her. So that's like a big factor to me because, yeah, I think that's what is missing a lot sometimes is, like, people get so wrapped up in what's going to be a radio hit that it's almost like, yeah, but I don't believe anything they're saying. So that's kind of like a thing I really treasure. So yeah, Kassi Ashton and Raelynn are killing it right now.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Last question. You just recorded When You Believe with Pentatonix, which is so great. I'd love to just hear a little bit about how you chose that song and maybe what new Christmas tradition you're looking to start, since this is going to be your first Christmas as a married lady.
Yeah. So Pentatonix reached out to me several months ago with a couple of song options from their Christmas record that they were making. And when I saw When You Believe in one of the song piles, I was like, can I please sing this with you guys? Because that was one of my favorite songs as a kid, favorite movies as a kid. And I obviously didn't go in thinking I'd hold a candle to Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston's version of it. But because Pentatonix is so a cappella and choral, I felt like we could make it really unique. And so it was super fun. I felt like I got to put my like pop hat on.
Great. And in terms of Christmas, any plans with you and Ryan?
This Christmas we're going to his family's in Michigan. They have like a lake house up there, and I've never done a Christmas there, but it's the lake house we got engaged at, so it obviously holds a lot of sentimental value to me as the newest member of the Hurd family. But I'm excited. They have like a wood burning stove. I hope it's gonna snow. We'll have like the dogs there. We'll make some like eggnog or something. We'll basically be making new traditions this year as a married couple.
It sounds magical. It basically sounds like a Hallmark Christmas movie.
It really does. Maybe we'll like do a fake Hallmark Christmas movie poster and shoot it there.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for your time, Maren. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, you too.
You know what I like about Maren is she really doesn't hold back on her feelings. She's a pistol, isn't she?
She's great. I love her.
Okay, let's move on to this week's big news stories.
Well, it's been a few days, but the story I think I'm still most excited about is Bobby Bones winning Dancing with the Stars. How awesome is that?
That was pretty cool. I got to admit, that was pretty. I don't know the guy had it in him.
Well, he finally got those perfect 10s in the last dance of the season, which I know he's going to feel really good about. But just, man, such a good ambassador for the country music community. Congrats to Bobby. And he's going on the tour, so dancing fans can see him live in several of the cities.
And strut his stuff, right?
Exactly.
Okay, what's the other big news story?
The other big news of the week is Kane Brown. So, I mean, we knew it was coming, but we just didn't know how big it was going to be. Experiment shattered all kinds of records, and it put Kane on top of the Billboard 200, which is the all-genre chart. He's only the third country act all year to be on top of the Billboard 200.
Sold about 124,000 units, too. That's pretty heady in this day and age. I also saw that he was the first male since 1994 to have a country sophomore album debut at #1. I believe it was Tim McGraw who did it back then. Congratulations, Kane. He's a superstar.
He is. And the other huge news story about Kane that I think is almost as significant as being #1 on the Billboard 200, he finally broke the streak and landed on top of the Hot Country Songs chart. Lose It is #1. And you know what that means?
Yeah, it means FGL's streak has come to an end around, 50?
50 weeks at #1. Meant to be's record-setting streak. I don't know if anybody's ever going to hit 50 weeks again. So congrats to FGL and BB Rexa for an absolutely incredible record, and congrats to Kane for being the one who finally ended the run.
You know what though? After the performance on the CMAs, I wonder if Kane will lose #1 for a week as FGL and BB go back to #1, because that was a big exposure for them.
I mean, that'd be crazy.
It would be. Now, is Lose It at #1 at country radio yet?
Not yet. It is headed there, but this week we've got another historic #1, Jimmy Allen. So Best Shot is at the top, and Jimmy is the first African-American male ever to launch his career with the #1 single at country radio. So hats off to him.
Congratulations, Jimmy.
All right, some other fun news. Thomas Rhett announced he's going on tour in 2019. The tour is going to be called the Very Hot Summer Tour. It's going to start in May and go all the way through October. There are a ton of dates, so he's probably coming somewhere near your town. And he's taking Dustin Lynch, Russell Dickerson, and even his dad, Rhett Akins, along for the fun. Those tickets go on sale November 30th. And if you download Thomas's Home Team app, you can get some early access.
Did you see that story in the local newspaper about during the CMA Awards, where he had all those kids with their band instruments, as he wound through the audience there? Those were all local.
That's awesome. I didn't see that story, but I know the CMA does so much with music education. They've got their huge It Starts With Music Education initiative that all of the artists are involved in. So I've loved seeing kids playing instruments on stage.
And I understand you have a story about the CMA co-host, Carrie Underwood.
Yes, she was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame this week. And, it feels like a good opportunity to remind everyone that Oklahoma is, without a doubt, in my opinion, the very best state for country music singers.
Whoa, wait a minute. I think some Texans would take an argument going here. What?
I mean, I'd take that argument. We got Carrie, Garth, Reba, Blake, Vince Gill, Toby Keith. I could go on and on. Definitely not a shabby list.
No, it's not a shabby list, but I think the Texans could probably match that one.
No.
Okay, Oklahoma girl. Any album news you want to mention?
Yes. If you haven't listened to Kip Moore's acoustic EP yet, check it out. It's called Room to Spare. It's so good. Have you checked it out?
No, I have not.
It's really good. Kip's fans have been bugging him for years to put out something acoustic, and he finally gave them what they wanted. Totally worth the wait. And next week, the soundtrack to the Netflix original film Dumplin' will be out. So we got a sneak peek of it when we were talking to Miss Dolly. It's so good. I can't wait for people to hear it. There are some amazing collaborations on this record.
And we're going to share it with everybody next week.
Yeah, Dolly's just incredible. I love her so much.
On a more somber note, the world of country music recently lost one of its all-time greatest entertainers, Roy Clark. Most people became familiar with Roy as the co-host of Hee Haw, but he was far more than that. Before Garth Brooks came along, Roy Clark was known as one of country music's premier entertainer, maybe the best. He also was a great musician and singer. Interesting enough, his biggest hit single was the remake of the Charles Aznavour French ballad, Yesterday, When I Was Young.
Yesterday, when I was young, so many happy songs were waiting to be sung.
There is a producer named Scotty Turner that brought the song to me. It was a hit in Europe for about 5 years, but had no English translation, and that Charles Aznavour, the composer, would approve of. So when it was translated into English and he approved it, Scotty said, I have this song that he said, none of the artists that I'm recording, it really fits this song, but I think you could do it. And the more he thought about it, the more excited he got. And he said, would you like to hear it? And I said, of course, if you're not that knocked out with it. He played it for me, and I literally fell out of the seat that I was sitting in. I said, that's me. That's my life. If I was to write a song, I would write Yesterday When I Was Young. And the surprising part of it is that I thought it was for older people, and I thought it was for men. I didn't think ladies would identify with it. Ladies do identify with it, and young children. I've had little 7, 8, 9-year-olds come up and say, my favorite song is Yesterday When I Was Young. And I said, that's strange. I mean, you're so young now. But a year ago, they were even younger. So it does fit everybody. And I can't hardly do a show without doing Yesterday When I Was Young.
I'd like you to download that song, Brittany, and let me know what you think next week, okay?
Deal.
Okay. That does it for this week. Remember to check out our playlist, This Week in Country Music, on all your favorite streaming sites. And follow me on Instagram at Bob Guerra Nashville. And follow the show at This Week in Country Music. I would think that the picture that we took with Dolly and you and me should be on Instagram by next week, right?
I posted it a couple of days ago, as a matter of fact.
All right, well, check it out. Check it out. I'm Bob Guerra.
And I'm Brittany Hodak. Thanks for listening to This Week in Country Music.